Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to talk all the news of the past 24 hours, the pro wrestling news, that is. It's our good friend Paul Pratt. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Hey, Nick. Welcome. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, we got some big news here. Huge news broke last night on AEW Dynamite. Of course, we're going to get to that. If you want to join the conversation, jump in the comment section, leave a comment. Maybe we'll pull your comment up onto the show. We'll put it on the screen. And you can also just chat in general with the other great pro wrestling fans that are in the comment section here every single day. Later on in the show, after the news, if you're listening to us in audio form, you're going to get my conversation with Miracle Mike Bennett. We're going to be talking about his ROH Pure title shot against Jonathan Gresham this weekend at Best in the World. Maria was in the same room as him because they were at a hotel. So she's also
because they're married.
Yeah, because they're married. So she's also kind of part of the interview. So I'm going to just go ahead and say Mike and Maria both here on the show today. Because why not? Because they are. So yeah, we got Mike Bennett here later. And if you're watching us in video form, then you could check out the interview in video form in about 58 minutes over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. Great talk. Again, me, Miracle Mike Bennett. We see Sean Patrick O'Brien here saying Mike Bennett is the man. Such a great guy. I agree, right? And he just seems so happy these days, Paul.
Well, I know what that's like to, go through a transformation process and change your life by putting devices aside. So I think that he's really in that pink cloud era of, his sobriety, his life. He's reclaimed his life as a professional wrestler. He's beginning to reclaim his reputation as a professional wrestler. So there's a lot to be happy about.
Yeah. And, and I don't want to give away the whole interview or anything, but he talks about how, for several years there, he felt like he was trying and failing, and I don't think there's anything worse than just like spending a ridiculous amount of time doing something you're passionate about, but just not feeling like it's going your way. And after so many years, I mean, I always use the Andy Dufresne Shawshank Redemption 500 yards of shit to come out on the other side a clean man. But that guy right now, getting to be in his element, getting to call his shots, getting to pick opponents, getting to wrestle the style that he likes. I mean, it's such a breath of fresh air. And you can just hear in his voice in this interview just what a different man he is than even just a few years ago. So very proud of this one, Paul. Very proud of this one. All right. And at the end of the show, we'll dive in the mailbag. We're going to talk about this new guy who debuted in AEW here in a second. But before that, Drizzy Manny, hey, y'all. Samantha QT, good afternoon. Nick and Paul. Krista Jones, hi, friends. Then we have Alonzo Smith, good afternoon, Nick and Paul. Man, like, just everybody, I love how
they're just friendly as hell today, Nick. They're just friendly as hell.
Everybody's in a good mood right now. I just like that. It's like we start the comments section off, and it's not people like, oh, I can't believe this or that, and being angry.
Right.
No, it's a friendly space we have here today. Okay, let's get to it. News you can use, news will leave a bruise. AEW Dynamite last night. Aleister Black, Tommy End, now Malakai Black, surprised the world, showed up. PWInsider.com saying that the reason he was able to show up completely unexpectedly is because when he moved from NXT to the main roster, WWE just straight up forgot, I guess, to update his non-compete from 30 to 90 days. So in a time where most things seem pretty straightforward, Paul, before we get into what he actually did, pretty cool that he was able to pull off this surprise for everybody.
Yeah. And I was surprised. I was also very happy because we've all speculated where we wanted to see him. And definitely, I think that he was one of the top prospects that we wanted to see in AEW. I'm also glad that the way they did him dirty on the main roster, that this little piece of good came out of it. It's like, you took him from this superstar on NXT to something that, was a shadow of that. So at least now he has the opportunity to come back and capitalize a little more quickly.
Yeah. I love that he's keeping. So earlier in the day, he teased this new Malakai Black character. Did you get a chance to check out the video?
Not.
You have not. Okay.
Not.
I'd recommend it. It's like 4 minutes, 45 seconds, but it is very much in the vein of the John Moxley Prison Break video. But instead of being in a prison, he's in a mental institution and he murders a doctor. Spoiler alert. And it's very dark. It's very, the tone is good. Josiah Williams is in it. He plays one of the other doctors. And I just really, the guy seems like he's having fun, got to lay the breadcrumbs out there. Well done. One of the things I liked about this, what I wanted to bring up, is in the video. And when you saw him on TV, well, in the video, he's straight up wearing an eye patch, and the doctor checks on it. Oh, you got a puppy in the room, Paul? Is there a puppy?
Yeah, and my neighbors are bringing in the trash. Oh my God.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry, y'all. It's like the downside of living literally adjacent and attached to other homes.
It's okay. Anytime puppies do run-ins, it's a good show for me. So anyway, I liked it in the video. He's straight up wearing an eye patch. The doctor goes to check on it, but then he's on TV and the eye's still all messed up. I
like that aesthetic, by the way, a lot.
Love the aesthetic, but of all of the things to keep from his WWE run, to roll with it, to move forward with it, he has chosen to just commit to the fact that Rey Mysterio, was it Rey or was it Seth that took his eye? It was Seth, right?
It was Seth. Yeah.
It was Seth. I'm sorry. Seth was taking eyes there for a while. To keep the fact that he lost his eyeball to Seth Rollins, chef's kiss. Really taking ownership, lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons with that one, you know?
Yeah, I love the milky eye look. I loved the bruising around it. It was good. I think it gives a great aesthetic, and I think it plays well with the character. So
let's talk about what he actually did. So earlier in the show, there's the strap match with Cody and QT, and we're gonna talk about Cody here, Paul, your favorite person. And
well, I mean, it's not about that. I want to make it clear. I don't dislike Cody. Okay. I actually think Cody's super talented, like very, very talented. And I think that he's somebody who could have a company built around him. Obviously, what I do not like is that for the past year, every single person he's been placed up against, he's just defeated so handily that there's kind of no point at the end of it. And especially when they prolong these feuds where it's like, well, QT Marshall's never gotten a leg up in this. So why do we keep escalating?
I don't understand the QT Cody thing. I mean, it's the most meta storyline, right? Like QT's always talking about people don't like me because they say I only get chances because I'm Cody's friend. And then it would seem the only reason he's getting these chances is because he's Cody's friend. Very weird. Say the soft part out loud like that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where I just have not liked it. It has not done anything for him. Every single person that they've sort of brought into this to sort of like elevate, I'm sure that behind the scenes, their excuses were elevating young talent, by having them associated with this QT versus Cody thing. But QT had no cachet whatsoever before this to begin with.
Right.
So placing people who are potential stars with somebody who has no cachet in a losing feud against Cody doesn't elevate anyone. The only way that any like Nick Camarado or Anthony Ogogo, the only way that these people would have been elevated is if they would have at some point actually gone over on Cody and then had Cody come back to avenge that loss.
I thought Ogogo had a shot. The way
I think Ogogo should have had a shot. I think he should have gone over.
I 100%. I mean, the way that guy built that thing, I mean, he got real mainstream publicity out of that deal, and that was a chance to make a star. It just wasn't made that night,
No, that's the thing. They talk about like that moment where you become a made man, and it's usually because you get that victory that catapults you to the next level. Cody's just not. This feels like, to me, I said it on Twitter, it feels like vanity booking to keep Cody on the TV 20 minutes a week, basically in a place that's outside of the title picture, so that he doesn't automatically crowd the title picture.
Well, so he does the strap match, and then the lights are flickering, right? And the commentators are like, "Oh, it's weather," and that was a really nice little detail. I think everybody agrees it was, yeah. And so then later, Arn Anderson's in the ring with Shivani. Lights out, lights up. There's Tommy End or Malakai Black, whatever you want to call him. Huge pop. First show in front of fans.
Mm-hmm.
Round kick lays out Arn Anderson. Here comes Cody. Cody takes a kick as well. Cody opens the show. He gets that first big pop back in front of fans, and he gets to be inserted into a storyline with the hottest free agent that they have. It does feel like, as Phil says here, Cody is the center of the universe, always working with the new guys. Did Cody did he need the strap match and the Malakai stuff? Like, I don't want to sit here and rag on Cody too much, but I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. It didn't take away. I mean, it's great Malakai's there, but I rolled my eyes a little bit that Cody once again getting to do a very high level thing.
I rolled my eyes as soon as the show opened and we opened on Cody's entrance, because I was just like, of course, as I tweeted, like, Cody's the only one capable, of kicking off this first live Dynamite back in front of audiences. Like, it's like, no, he's not.
Well,
anyone would have gotten a pop.
Oh yeah, 100. I agree. That's the thing, is I was just like, there's two big moments on the show: the opening, that first big reaction from the fans, and then the Tommy End bit. And don't get me wrong, like, that main event was a straight up banger. Like, that thing, I don't know. I don't know how much more energy you could have at the end of that show than what we got, right? But yeah, it was like, these are two big. Cody got both of them, right? You can't spread that around a little bit,
No, anyway. They could have that moment in the beginning. Whoever opened that show, it would have notched them up a level, because they would have been the first people that would have been seen. The energy level would have been through the roof. It would have just amped it up just a little bit. But it's Cody.
So Dave Langer here saying Black is going to destroy Cody to let Cody go be a new dad, which
I pray.
Right? Yes.
Please, thank you.
Yes. It would be great, right? If he was able to pick up a win there. Antonio Garcia agreeing they need to put the nail in the Cody versus QT thing. I don't know where you go with QT from here, man.
It was done last night. Last night was the send off for that. I don't know where QT is going to go from this, but I think that it's obvious that by inserting Cody now in a new feud with Black, that has put a cap on the previous.
Hey, maybe QT's group can be feuding with Dark Order. Like, what is Dark Order's purpose anymore? Like, I'm a little vague on what exactly Dark Order does.
They are cheerleaders for Hangman Page. Duh.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, it was Alonzo Smith here saying it's too bad that Alistair couldn't come back to WWE like his wife did. Maybe he didn't want to. And also, and call me skeptical, okay? Because I read this PW Insider thing, the 30-90 day non-compete. That's an answer I think that most people aren't even blinking an eye at. Makes a lot of sense. But so last night I got to watch this at a bar, which is actually really cool. I was hanging out with my Warrior Wrestling friends. We were at a bar. We had it up on 3 screens. And so Malakai Black shows up, and everybody's like, how could he do this? Like, I thought he had the 90-day. He's not taking our calls because we've been trying to book him. And I was like, well, isn't it a little coincidental that Zelina Vega shows up on SmackDown on Friday, and then her husband shows up on AEW on Wednesday, earlier than everybody expected? And it just kind of smacks a little bit of the Charlotte Andrade situation to me, where, Zelina had a lot of leverage. They wanted a lot from her, including deleting tweets supporting unionization. If there was a chance to get some leverage to be like, hey, I'll do solid for you, but you got to do solid for us. That was where again, I'm basing that solely on my gut reaction, but just a little coincidental there that those two things happened in a just a couple hours, couple days period.
I just think that I think that the worst case scenario for any of this situation, Andrade, obviously huge catch for AEW, like a huge get. And we'd seen him with Zelina and how they were fire for the first half of last year. Right. They were on fire. Obviously, Andrade can go in the ring, but he does have a little bit of a language barrier still to this day in terms of the English language. So the last thing I can imagine they would have wanted is him and Zelina as a package deal, popping up the hottest thing from last spring in WWE, popping up together as a package on AEW. And so, and of course, then, if there was anything that they could do to dissuade Tommy End / Malakai Black from jumping to AEW as quickly as he did or at all, I'm sure they would have tried that as well. So if she's a leverage piece, then, at least she's benefiting from it right now.
Christian Jones saying, why was Andrade wearing baseball pants? Well, he's been doing this whole like New York Yankees aesthetic, which, couple things real fast about Andrade's new look. I thought he was the Blade at first when he came out because like it's the same look, right? With the black. If I'm the Blade, I'm a little upset about that one, right?
Andrade, I don't think that Andrade was wearing baseball pants. He came out in that pinstripe suit. So
they look like New York Yankees.
Yeah, I agree that they did.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the purpose. He had a whole suit on, which tore away at the back. And he was like, I'm going to peel this off. It
wasn't quick. You don't go to Chippendales and say, man, that guy was struggling with his pants. It's got to be quick. You can't.
Well, right. But that's Angel Garza's shtick. So who was his partner less than a year ago. Right. I think that, I don't know. I'm assuming that we'll get to Andrade at some point. Andrade, I think, looked like $1 million, is $1 million. I think that he has all of the makings of being a major player in AEW. The point that I'm afraid of at this juncture for AEW is that while we've got our homegrown talents, the Jungle Boys, the Darby Allins, the Orange Cassidys, all of these new acquisitions who are coming in with much greater name recognition out of the gates are beginning to overwhelm the number of homegrown talents. I think that for the fans, I think that can be a win. For people who have the mindset of like historical mindset, this becomes this becomes WCW buying up all the people from WWF. And then for people who are just the internet community, this becomes, a bunch of WWF rejects, WWE rejects type of situation.
Yeah, I'm iffy on that whole debate. I mean, as a person who knows a lot of people that work there, I feel bad for some of the original talent that got signed to the company.
Mm-hmm.
We're given promises. We're told there was going to be these opportunities. We're going to do things differently. And now, as you say, Block goes up top, Block comes off the bottom, right? We're seeing Matt Hardy versus Christian Cage in Fyter Fest,
and getting promoted heavily, like it was 15 years ago.
Yeah. So I get it, but at the same time, I'm with you in the sense that I think it's not. I don't think it's bad for the fans yet. I don't think it's bad at all. I mean,
not at all.
I feel bad for the roster. I feel for some of the people on the roster. Like I say, the Blade, right? Like, remember him? Now he's just, Putty Patrol number 7 behind Matt Hardy. But dude walks in the door with a near identical look, right? I mean, they're probably going to tell you to stop wearing that black hood because Andrade's doing it, would be my guess.
I think that the impact of these acquisitions on the roster is something really people should pay attention to as well, because we're seeing groups like freaking Private Party, like 6 months ago was a standalone act that had actual star potential, and now they've had their entire gimmick changed and they're nobody's backing up Matt Hardy. I do not understand. One of the things I actually noted, I don't think it's on our run sheet to talk about, but one of the things I noted is that last night when I was watching this, that promo Ricky Starks cut by himself with his like backup or his like bodyguards in the ring was the single most star quality promo or appearance that I've seen from Ricky Stark in his entire AEW career. And why is that? Because he was not standing there with a cast of other characters that he had to share the spotlight with. Mm-hmm. He was not surrounded by Team Taz, which is quite honestly a charisma void, and he did not have to share that with them. Like AEW consistently making everyone part of a 50-person faction is not serving anyone.
Yeah, and the people that are lone wolves are definitely popping. I mean, Moxley's now kind of even a little stable there with Penta and Kingston, but he was one of the lone wolves there for a while, and it really resonated. I guess Cody.
Miro?
Yeah.
Well, Miro's by himself.
Cody has a faction, right?
Yes, but he never really deals with it. Because Cody's like, yeah, they're my boys, but I'm not sharing this spotlight, so get lost.
Yeah.
Maybe run out and save me at the end, but don't you dare.
Yeah, I guess Miro is like Miro. I guess Lance Archer's with Jake. I guess that's fine. He's a manager. I'll say this about Archer, man. And while we're talking promos, Dan Lambert, American Top Team, I thought promo of the night. That guy, I got all of the Jerry Lawler and ECW feels watching America Top Team Dan Lambert come out and rag AEW fans. I'm sure you had to have loved that right there.
He plays that character very well. You know what I mean? Dan Lambert plays that character very well. We've seen it before from him. And he does it extremely well. It's like old man screaming at clouds, you know, like, but I think that he did very well. One of the things that I was impressed by is, you know, before he was drawing heat, but during the promo, he's like giving all of these things. He's like building the fans up by saying all these wonderful things that Tony Khan has told him. You know what I mean? So he's reinforcing the message that Tony Khan wants to get out there for these people. And then he makes his heel turn at the end by being like, and it was a lie. And like, I was, you know, wasted my night. And
yeah. I thought it was wonderful, you know, and because American Top Team, because we'd seen Dan in MLW repping King Mo, right? Isn't that the
yes.
last? Yeah. Cause I was having to explain to people at the bar who this was. I was like,
and we've seen him. He was in Impact for a while. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's been like
they've gone variety places. They had a whole storyline and Impact about him as well.
And really cool that they had like Amanda Nunes ringside there, a little star power for that show as well. So anyway, well, talk about promos. Another promo, Britt Baker cut on the show was about how she was unhappy with last week's tag match with Nyla Rose and Vicky. She was put through a table by her upcoming challenger, but Rebel ended up getting injured instead, dislocating her kneecap. Baker pointed out to Tony Khan that the only reason the match took place was because Vicky was owed a favor after bringing in Andrade. Baker told Khan to enjoy his, quote, blood money, and then made a direct reference to WWE working in Saudi Arabia, saying maybe next week AEW Dynamite can run in Saudi Arabia. How do you feel?
First of all, Britt Baker, fire on the promos, always. Very believable as a heel. Very, I think that, you know, I've seen a few critiques negatively of her time as champion, but I think that she's just money overall. Outstanding promo. I'm actually repping my Nyla Rose Native Beast shirt. And at the same time, the blood money thing, I saw that blowing up on social media. To me, you know, remember last week we talked about how, like, I feel like when JR made that slip up about saying WWE Dynamite, this is another case that what I said about that then is that WWE is always at the tip of AEW's tongue. You know, like they're always wanting to give that little dig. And this was, for better or worse, I felt that was another instance of this. It's like, well, what was the point? You know, what was that point? It was good, but what was the point?
It does. It feels more and more to me like AEW is trying to provoke a fight with WWE.
Yeah,
right. It does. I mean, and I think it may be because they saw how much kind of organic buzz there was when they were head to head with NXT. Like every week, everybody was talking all about their battle and stuff. And WWE basically was like, "We're done with this. We're pulling out. Like we don't need this. Like we're the big dog here." And AEW now, I feel like wants to try to. I mean, Tony Khan knew she was going to say this. This is not a small thing to say about your competition. I doubt WWE responds, but it certainly feels to me like AEW is trying to provoke WWE into engaging them. Tony Khan does this all the time. He takes pot shots at them constantly.
Yeah, and that's it's very interesting to note how somebody who insists that he doesn't want to be a on-screen personality or persona or character like Tony Khan incessantly behind the scenes, like off television product, is talking about this. Mm-hmm. And I think that in a lot of ways, you know, whatever they have to say about WWE, like for the most part, Tony Khan is replicating some of that on his own playground.
Yeah. We have a super chat here, by the way, Paul. Lowkey07 saying, how about a storyline where Black eventually begins to corrupt the Dark Order and it leads to a feud between him and Adam Page, fighting for the soul of Dark Order once he wins the belt from Kenny. We'll talk a little bit more about, thank you, Loki, by the way. We'll talk a little bit more about possible storylines for Black at the end there. I did include Dark Order as like a potential feud for Aleister Black, or for whatever, Malakai Black, whatever you want to call him now.
I will tell you that I love the idea of Malakai Black coming in as like the new exalted one and actually returning the Dark Order to some kind of prominence of being dark and order. I don't know. Like they're neither dark nor order at this point.
I've seen a lot of people here chiming in saying about these jabs. Darla Kashka saying, I'm tired of the WWE knocks. WWE blows, but AEW feels thirsty doing this. And then Phil saying WWE threw jabs and losing. WCW threw jabs, then trying to take over. In the 90s, they were closer in competition. Right now, as AEW is nowhere near WWE. But again, that's the thing, is I think they're trying to provoke WWE to engage them, to get something going. I don't know.
I'm going to say this. I with due respect to that particular comment, I think that AEW is, to say that they're nowhere near WWE. I don't think that's actually an accurate statement. I think that when we're looking at the fact that WWE, in terms of like products across the board, absolutely, it's a juggernaut. But when we're talking about television ratings, the difference between like a 1 million and a 1.7 million, which Raw had or whatever last week, I mean, yes, it's significant, but that's something that can be made up very quickly. And considering this is a brand new television product, they're not doing too poorly.
Last thing I wanted to bring up here from AEW Dynamite last night before we dive into some WWE news. A fan tried to storm the ring during the Chris Jericho MJF segment, right? Like this guy. And he, there's been a lot of fans charging the ring over the years, but this guy, I don't want to like praise him because don't be an idiot. Don't run into the ring. But on the ramp, took his shirt off, got to take it in there for a moment. It looked like he was going to get in that ring and Jericho was going to just beat the ever-loving piss out of him. Thank God security got to him before that could happen. But Jericho went out of his way to take a pot shot at that guy as he was getting hauled out of that ring, My
favorite, it was one of my favorite comments of the night, when he later on said, next time I'll let that fat bastard beat your ass. That had me howling. I was like, well, not only did you get like yanked and thrown out of the thing, but you just got like humiliated by Chris Jericho.
So just while we're talking about, the segment saw MJF challenge Jericho to a series of matches where he's going to have to go through them in order to get one more match with MJF. And Jericho was talking a lot about how, if I don't get this, maybe I should be in AEW. I feel like this is setting up Chris going on tour with Fozzy again, and this will be the blow off, whatever happens, maybe it all out between these two. Yes,
I mean, he's supposed to be leaving on tour with Fozzy in weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so whatever they're doing, they better make it quick. This Herculean challenge of they've set up.
Sure, yeah. All right. Well, some bad news here for WWE. WrestleNomics saying Monday's Raw did an average of 1.72 million viewers, down 6.24 from last week's 1.57. This was the lowest viewership in the history of Raw. The previous low was December 14th, 2020, that did 1.526. This week's Raw was tied with last week and the December 14th show in the 18 to 49 demo. Raw's viewership was down 12.7% from the same week in 2020. The 18 to 49 demo down 16.3% from the same week. So the bar goes even lower.
Mm-hmm.
Bad, sad. And it's a rough, it was the national holiday. People are not wanting to be inside right now and watching TV. We're all finally getting to, run around with clean faces and do things. But I feel like I'm making excuses for them.
You are.
They didn't draw. They didn't draw.
You are making excuses because I'm going to tell you, all of those things aside, if the product was compelling, I would clear my schedule. Like if it was literal must see TV, if there was something that was happening that felt important, different, fresh, that was connecting with me on some level. All of those things aside, I would clear my schedule. It's the end of the holiday weekend. It wasn't 4th of July, actually. It wasn't the actual holiday. It was the day after. I just think that I do not have any ill will towards WWE. And it's a scenario wherein I wish Raw was as compelling as it has been in the past. I wish their product felt fresh or different or new. It does not. And I'm optimistic that once they begin returning to the road, that there's going to be some kind of story progressions, that we're going to see something new, something different.
I am with you 100%. It is. I think next week's going to be worse because next week's a pre-tape Raw, right?
Yeah. It's the last one of the Thunderdome era.
So, like, even if you saw this show and you saw the viewership come in, you really can't even, like, do much to change the creative you had going into the following week because you've already recorded it. Like, I really think next week's going to be worse.
It's interesting. What this makes me think about in part is I saw a recent tweet, I believe, and I think it was from Vince Russo, and who I'm not a tremendous fan of, but I don't have any, I don't have anything against him.
I was surprised you were breaking up Russo quotes. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the reason that I mentioned this is exclusively because he was quoted as saying that when he was at the height of his success in WWE, they had these shows written days before the recording. So you could have consistency. Things would be in place. People would be ready. You would know. And there was a consistency. And the way things are written now, we constantly see reports where whatever the writers have come up with gets scrapped, like literally pretty much during the course of the actual broadcast sometimes.
Yeah.
So the reason I mention this is because one of the things we so often talk about, and the people who do get a huge brunt of the blame here, are the creative. Creative doesn't have ideas. Creative is this. Creative sucks, whatever. Well, if I'm a writer and I've written something that's planned out over a 6-week period that's supposed to flow in a certain way, and pieces of that are getting chopped away bit by bit every single time somebody goes to broadcast something, am I really responsible anymore? Because what I pitched is not even remotely what you're allowing. So, this is something, that's why I mentioned it, because there does not seem to be any story progression. In a normal story, things happen incrementally. It's one of the reasons why I think, for example, we do see a better product on SmackDown on Fridays, because the story progression of Roman Reigns, which is the central character, there is progression in this story every week. We are not seeing that most of the time on Raw.
I wanted to bring up a comment here from Phil. Nick, you make your living on wrestling. Aren't you concerned with the direction of pro wrestling? It's interesting you tweeted that, or you messaged that, Phil. I'm not concerned about pro wrestling because AEW is thriving, right? There's pro wrestling will live. Pro wrestling is the cockroach of the entertainment business. All right. I do. It really is. Right?
Oh, sorry.
It will find a way to survive whatever happens. And that's proven time and time again. But as I'm looking at these viewership numbers and I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, it goes lower and lower. And I was like, I was like, what happens if like it got so bad? Like it's not going to happen, but like, are we engaged? Are we so engaged in the news and these low numbers and stuff and focusing on that? Like, what if one day it just like went away, right? Like it just falls and falls and falls. This isn't really something nobody's cheering this on, but it is a little concerning to think like the popularity of the thing that I do make my living on is going somewhat down, at least from the big product. And it is a concern to me, Phil. It really is. King Rail here, by the way, another super chat. PG era killed WWE. If they want fans to go, if they want fans, they have to go to an MA rating. I get more excited for Law and Order SVU than I do for Raw. I don't know. I don't think you have to go MA. I don't think you have to do that, right?
I don't think that the content needs to be mature. I think that the content needs to be interesting. I think that the stories need to be interesting. I'm just as inclined to watch a show that has an absolute PG rating as I am something that has a mature audience's rating. You know, like as long as the content is well written, well executed, and compelling, as long as it catches my attention and brings me back, it does not have to have adult content for me to be interested.
You look at Pixar, right? Like Pixar, you look at Toy Story, right? That's one of the greatest stories ever told. Didn't have to curse a whole bunch or murder anybody to tell the Toy Story. Shrek, same thing, right? You can write compelling content for all ages that without having to murder people and, you know, have live sex in the middle of a ring or anything like that. So I'm with you, Paul. I don't see the need for the MA rating here.
By the way, I just want to, they didn't ask me, but I want to say that, like, my concern about pro wrestling isn't that, like, you know, that you'll lose your job, Nick, or that the site's going to close down or whatever. My concern is that, in a very selfish way, is that the products that I'm being given on a really large scale are going to become so intolerable that it starts to dampen my actual passion and love for pro wrestling. And I've seen that quite often, like with Raw, the biggest product that we have, the 3-hour chunk, is the least watchable product of the entire week from almost any company.
Oh yeah.
So that's my problem. I don't want to lose my passion because somebody else is providing me shit, basically.
I'm really thankful that my role is to do the afternoon show for Wrestling Inc. I think that everybody that does the post-Raw show should be given medals or a box of steaks or whatever to stay up and watch that 3 hours carefully and then have to digest it. Like, I can't do it, man. I cannot do it. I can't fathom it.
I record mine, and I got through an entire 3-hour episode of Raw in like 40 minutes because once you zoom past everything that has been repetitious, you know, and like maybe rewind just a little bit to make sure you didn't miss something that might be new, it was not fulfilling.
Rob Humphrey here saying that someone should start a GoFundMe for me just in case. Yeah, if the bottom falls out, guys, if the business dies, I'm gonna need y'all to rally. You know, so I'm gonna find something else to do with my time. So, all right, moving. We got 2 other items here. Then we're gonna get to Mike Bennett, and then we'll jump into the mailbag. We've got a little longer here than I thought we had. Paul, that's just flowing conversation today. So we were talking about Roman Reigns and the storyline on SmackDown, and I agree with you. Best thing in week in and week out in wrestling. The Observer saying there's been no actual fallout from WWE on Jimmy Uso over his arrest as of Tuesday evening. Now, with that said, it's noted that decisions, whatever they may be, are going to be made soon. Why do I have the vibe they're just going to go there? Like, this storyline is too valuable. We're just going to move on. We're not going to reference it. We're not going to punish this guy. We're just going to keep going.
You know, I'm concerned about the Usos, Jimmy Uso in this case. You know, I wish that, first of all, I need to be like very blunt. Like, I've gone through this experience myself, like what he's going through. Like, I'm many years in recovery from drug addiction and alcoholism. And so it is possible to bounce back from these things. What I wish that people would understand is that he's going through something that is like, it's an illness, right? Like, he's overcome with this compulsion. He cannot control himself at sometimes. And if WWE doesn't step in and send him off to like a rehab facility or force him into something like that, he could join one of the legions of people that we've lost way too soon. I mean, and he could, since he's drinking and driving a lot, he could be taking people with him. That's the problem.
That is the most selfish part of this, right? Is all of the lives that you put at risk because of the decisions that you're making. And I really hope that WWE does right by Jimmy and takes him off TV. I mean, I have to believe that the cycle, right? Whatever it is, riding the road, going out, whatever, it needs to be broken. Right? Like, he shouldn't be in this space right now. And so I really hope that they give this guy, you know, whatever, 2 months to go get his head right before coming back into the equation. Because my worry is that if they just say, this is too important, we need to keep moving, back to work, you're going to be feuding with Roman, that, like, since they didn't treat it as a big deal, he's not going to treat it as a big deal. I don't know if that resonates with you.
Yeah, well, they haven't from what we've seen publicly, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Of course, I'm sure that somebody would have leaked this crap if there was made a big deal. But this isn't one. This isn't two. This is three. And number two, the company actively worked to get it dismissed for him. Like he had lawyers who were, presumably in part funded by WWE, who was trying to reclaim his reputation, and they got that dismissed. But this is an obvious pattern. Once is a mistake, twice is like whatever, three times now. This is a problem.
Yeah, it's bad. It's poor decision making, right? And again, like it's a cycle that needs to be broken. And by the way, congratulations to you as for your sobriety, Paul. Like Christian Jones here chiming in. I see a lot of the people
thank you.
Very supportive of you. But like you gotta take time to actually like address this and treat this. And like I just hope that something happens here. Like I don't see putting this guy back on the road doing shows and not getting out of whatever cycle he's in as being the best thing for Jimmy Uso or them.
It becomes a situation where I think that if I were to handle this, as somebody who's been in this situation, right, you cannot force somebody to get well. You can't. Like everybody around you can know that you have a problem long before you want to deal with it. And if you individually don't want to make a change, you just can't. There is nothing's going to happen. Nobody can do the work for you. Like nobody could get me sober except me, right? So in his case, what we're reaching is a point where it's like it's got to be a ultimatum situation, presumably, like a consequences. Like, okay, either you do this and then you prove yourself again, or you're a liability to the company. You become a liability to the company. If you do not want to take the appropriate means to get yourself well. And we have seen, we're getting ready to go to that interview with Mike Bennett. Mike Bennett went through something extremely similar. WWE supported him in terms of sending him off to rehab. And now it's years later, and Mike is still doing extremely well based on that because there was a willingness. So this is a situation where something we're talking about now leads into a conversation you're presumably possibly going to have in just a few minutes with Mike Bennett. And we've seen the results. People have gone through this with WWE, but if they're not going to take some kind of punitive action, like as an employer, it's like, well, you get, most employers are like 1 strike, 2 strikes, and then 3 strikes, you are out.
Yeah. We will get to Mike here in just a second. One last thing I wanted to bring up before we get to Mike, and then we'll dive in the mailbag real quick to wrap up the show. MMA Junkie saying CM Punk's loss to Mike Jackson at UFC 225 has been overturned and is now a no contest. So rather than 0-1, he is now 0-1-0 in the UFC. The report noted that Jackson was stripped of a win after he tested positive for marijuana on fight night. However, the change in result is due to the June 2018 fight. And however, the change in result to the fight wasn't reported publicly until now. Finally got it right there. I don't know if I'm Punk, if I take any real solace in this, right? The marijuana thing is stupid.
First of all, like you got beat by a stoned guy.
Yeah, Mr. Straight Edge, right?
My point is, like, people are usually a little more lethargic when they're stoned. Like people don't like,
Well, I've talked to MMA fighters about this, and one of the things I hear about smoking marijuana and fighting is how you're looser, right? So you're able to be more flexible and you can roll better. Yeah, there are some benefits, and especially when it comes to rehab and dealing with pain and injuries and stuff outside of the cage, marijuana can help. There was that runner, that woman who got disqualified from the
Olympics. Like I can't remember her name because I don't pay attention to track and field, but yeah, it's legitimately very big in the news right now. Certainly very big in the news. And one of the things that I just came off of telling y'all that like I'm sober, and like that includes marijuana. But one of the things we're going to need to start to reevaluate as athletic organizations is that cannabis is now legal in many places. Like I live on the West Coast, it's like legal everywhere. You can buy cannabis more quickly and easily than you can buy menthol cigarettes. Yeah. So, we're going to have to start to reevaluate what it is and if it's a performance enhancing drug or if it's not. Especially since so many people also, even if it's not legal, cannabis is, there's such thing as medicinal and medical marijuana. So
yeah, I agree. And by the way, Dave Linger here, Sha'Carri Richardson is the name.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So, just I don't know. I have no more thoughts on this. Punk, I don't think we'll ever fight in the UFC again. I don't really know that this means anything, but it did a lot of traction on the site, so we talked about it.
Of course, everybody loves CM Punk.
Big CM Punk news. All right, hey, we're going to dive in the mailbag now into the show. Paul, thank you very much for going at length with me into the Malakai Black debut and the low Raw viewership. Keep the comments coming in. We will do more comments here. We'll bring them up on the screen at the end of the show. But we are going to dive. And by the way, thank you, Mike Bennett and Maria, for that matter. But we're going to dive into the mailbag right now at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow if you want to vote in our daily polls, find out when new shows go out, find links to shows, all of that stuff at Wink Daily. So today's poll question is about Malakai Black. He's in AEW right now. Who do you most want to see Malakai Black feud with now? Wow, this coffee is kicking in. Nothing is moving.
Woo!
I know, flying here. So who do you want to see Malakai Black feud with in AEW? The choices I gave were Cody, Darby Allin, Dark Order, or some other write-in. 44.1% said Darby Allin, 30.5 Cody, 15.3 Dark Order, and 10.2 said somebody else. Who's your, if you get to see Tommy End feud with anybody, who's it going to be?
I'm inclined to go for that something I haven't seen before. So I would like to see him either face Hangman Adam Page, because I've never seen that, or Kenny Omega. I would, and I think honestly, call me crazy, but I think that he comes in as an elite level player in this, and I think that he deserves kind of like almost immediate slotting in the main event, because I think collectively the world feels that he did not get the opportunity that he should have gotten on the main roster. And if they're going to repackage him in any capacity and let him shine, it's going to be at a very elite level.
Yeah, I don't really have a horse in this race. Like I made up the question. Nobody really popped out to me as like the person I need to see Malakai Black feud with. I threw Dark Order in there just because, I see already people jumping in here. Paul Myers saying, that he should lead the Dark Order. I mean, I'm not against it, but I thought if you were going to do it, you'd have debuted him in that role. My opinion. So, all right, let's get some write-ins here at DJ Esquire, New York City. Black versus Omega or Hangman, right? We have Parts Unknown USA, Pac. That'd be fun to watch.
A lot of people seem to believe that.
Yeah, Pac. A lot of people. I've seen a lot of write-ins. You responded to one here. That would be insanely good. At free_bird 1006 Andrade. Haven't we seen Andrade Black? I feel
they're like, I want to see it done right.
I guess so. At MS CAS_JB, Pinta, Kenny, or Hangman or Miro. And yeah, Jermaine 611 saying no Miro. Again, like, I feel like at some point we saw Miro Aleister Black, right?
Even if we didn't, like, that's something that I think that is baiting people to be like, WWE rejects, like that's the favorite thing for people from the internet. Anybody who has ever one moment in the WWE and they go somewhere else, they're a reject suddenly. But
yeah, well, Braddock here, Kenny Omega. Then we have
Braddock is one of our most valued viewers. He's with us every week.
He is, and Braddock, is WWE going to bring back unique sets for their pay-per-views? The constant question you ask you every week. Probably,
eventually. Now that they're traveling, who knows?
Did you watch Takeover? Like they had the Statue of Liberty there. Was that not a unique enough set for you, Braddock? Darla Kajic, Eddie Kingston. That'd be a brawl. So, and Christian Jones here saying Lance Archer. A couple people wrote Lance Archer. Why not? Needs to do something. All right.
He's not doing anything else, so
he's gonna he's gonna feud with America's Top Team now, right?
Maybe.
All right, everybody. That brings us to the end of the show. I will be back tomorrow to wrap up the week, short week here, four-day work week. Christy Olsen will be in the house on tomorrow. The ROH interviews continue. I'm going to have Shane Taylor on the show. We're going to be talking about his big 6-man championship match that he's got going on at Best in the World this Sunday night. So Mike today, Shane tomorrow. If you like this show, the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all your favorite social media channels. And, of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live at night after big shows, all the major shows. You can subscribe to the Wrestling Inc. podcast on your favorite RSS feed as well, whatever podcast platform. Paul, what do you want to plug, promote, put over here to wrap up the show today?
I would like to say that it was an honor and a privilege to get to present the first half of my Mickie James interview yesterday. If you are tuning in and haven't checked that out, definitely go over to the Wrestling Inc. Socials, and you can find that. It was Mickie and I had a great conversation. We're breaking it up into 2 parts. I'm really excited because this Saturday I have a show here in San Jose, California. I'm going to be wrestling with Underground Wrestling Alliance down in San Jose, and I'm super excited because Slice Boogie, NWA, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Star is going to be on the show. So I'm looking forward to getting to meet him in person. I'm a big fan of his work.
Rock and roll. Yeah, that Mickie James interview was great. And I already know that you're working on more big interviews for the site. So welcome to the interview world of Wrestling Inc., Paul. You've done it.
Thank you.
You're here.
I've broken through. I've made it. I've made it.
I am at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. The brand new episode of Pro Wrestling for Life featuring me, Sean Waltman, and Josh Barnett is out now on all podcast platforms over on youtube.com/xpac. Go check that out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.